Well, one of my favourite game series is probably Konami's Gradius, or what's known as Nemesis. But the official name is Gradius. That's the what the Japanese call it. And here we are. Wonderful assortment of Gradius games. So we start with the first one here. This is a Nemesis. As you can see, it's in fantastic condition. Has a smaller edge connector. Like I said on the Bubble Bobble video, you will need an adapter to play this. So you can play it on a jammer cabinet, which is no problem. It's what they call a Konami to jammer adapter. So Konami used a slightly different configuration to jammer, which just an adapter slots on and goes straight into your jammer harness. So as you can see, it's in great condition. I think Nemesis or Gradius is one of the most. It still plays brilliant to this day. It's one of the most iconic horizontal shoot 'em ups. Probably after R-Type, or before R-Type, in my opinion. It was pioneering. And this came out in 1985. As you can see, it's an old style 68,000. Gold on the top of it. I think it's a 68. Yeah. And it originally was, or these chips, these numbers on the chips, equate to a Konami GT board. Now I thought this was a conversion, but I've been told that Konami do have a habit of using other games hardware in, specific other hardware. I think because of shortages and all that at the time. But it's definitely a GX400, which is there, you can see it. And GX400 is the completely correct board that Nemesis or Gradius runs on. It's just on these chips, it says 561 instead of 400. Yeah, purist collectors would probably turn the nose up at that, but it's exactly the same hardware. Fantastic game, as I say, pioneering for its day. Still great to play. And then its sequel came out a couple of years later, is here. Now this is a huge PCB. It's many layers. That's wrong side actually. But let me see if I can. And you can see, so it's a lot of layers. This is Vulcan Venture, or well, Gradius 2 in Japan. I always just call it Gradius 2 Gopher, but it's known in Europe as Vulcan Venture, and this one is the Vulcan Venture. Once again, these numbers on the PCBs are for a different game, but the hardware is exactly the same, so I think Konami, definitely with this one, there's no evidence of the labels being replaced, so they definitely on this one used other hardware, but apparently Konami did that a lot. Once again, it's in good nick. As I say, I've had this book quite a long time. It's very heavy, it's very large, and very prone to breaking down. But touch wood, not with me as yet. Right, and then, I like to think probably before this one came out here is Salamander. This came out before Gradius 2. Salamander, I think, is definitely a sequel to Gradius. Although I don't think it's supposed to be now. I think people see it as an offshoot. But I always think it's the first true successor to Gradius. The only difference is you're inside like a organic life form, whatever, as opposed to fighting against spaceships, etc. But as you can see, this board is totally original. So it's all the original chips. Yeah, another huge board. Konami certainly like to populate their PCBs, their huge PCBs with lots and lots of components. Yeah, it's a serial, and all the chips, all the custom chips, etc. And like I said, well, like I'll say on this Salamander video, great sound, great sound in all these games. Konami really did a great job. Right, and the last, what I call true Gradius game, is here. This is Gradius 3. And it actually was called Gradius 3 all over the world. So that obviously created some kind of confusion. So they basically, there's a timeline when you start the game, and they basically, on the European version, erased all this timeline because it would have just confused the hell out of everybody. So all it just says is 1989 when this game came out, and then it goes into Gradius 3. If you own the Super NES, you'll know Gradius 3. It's one of the launch games. It's a very good conversion. This is notorious for them saying it's a very, very hard game. As you can see, that custom chip there is cracked, but luckily it's not incapacitated the board. It's cracked and missed all the components. So yeah, I've been a bit lucky there. I think it's like been like that since I've had it. But yeah, as I'll show you some gameplay video, it definitely works 100%. These boards are, and it's not only mine, I've seen others, but if you look at it, it absolutely, it bows. And I've seen a lot do this, worse than mine, but this must have been a fault of the design. But of course, when a PCB bows, it can lift traces, because obviously the stress that's put on the bit that bows is going to pull up any traces. So yeah, it's not ideal situation, and of course I've got that crack there in the custom, but luckily it's not gone through any components or any traces. So yeah, Gradius 3's, I really like it. I think it's a great game. I think it's a nice swan song. I know there's a Gradius 4. I don't like Gradius 4. That's on the huge Konami Viper hardware, which is like a big metal box with a PCB inside it. It was one of the launch games for the PlayStation 2 when that came out, but I see these as the true Gradius series, really. Certainly if you're playing on an arcade cab, etc. So yeah, we'll get through to some gameplay videos for each of these boards. I'll see you on the other side. Bloody shit.